Hello, FlossTube. This is Amber. It is August 14th, 2019, and it is Wednesday. I am coming back after about a 6-month hiatus from my first video due to life. Always meant to get back to this, kept getting distracted. I am part of a Facebook cross-stitching group that is currently doing a year-long Harry Potter style stitching. It's called the School of Magical Stitches and Literature. It is based off the 7 books, and each week we get a new homework topic. This week we are doing our O.W.L.s, which for those of you who are familiar with Harry Potter, know it's just the tests in 7 core classes, and then you have up to 3 electives that you can take, or at least that's how we're doing our stitching homework. You have to do, oh dear, I forgot, no, just kidding. I remember now. You have to do, at base, 100 stitches for each core class, so that's 700. Or if you want to go for an outstanding, you can stitch 200, which obviously ends up being 1,400 stitches. We have from basically Monday midnight to Sunday at 11:59. It's Wednesday. I haven't started mine, but I'm gonna start. I finally, the only real rule is you have to be able to justify why you're stitching on that particular project, or you're using that particular, some people use a particular thread. So there's a charm that shoots red sparks out from the wand, and metallic red thread or red thread with sparkles was accepted as something you could use, but you had to do a base minimum of 100 stitches in that specific thread. So you couldn't just have a thread in the sampler or the project you were working on that had maybe 3 red stitches and then do, 97 other stitches. It had to be in that color. So there's that. I saw in the, while scrolling through the Facebook page, one of the admins, Vicky, was asking if there were any floss tubers who had the video or were interested in making a video about the how we justified doing 7 to 11 justifications. I'm not sure that came out the way I wanted to, but I'm going to keep rolling with this. I got lucky. Out of the 11 planned projects or classes, I got to use one project for 10 of them. Yep. Right? That's how math works. Pretty sure. 7, 8, 9, 10. No. So there's a total of 11 classes. 5 are electives, and you can only pick 3 electives. So of those 3, 2 of them are the same project that I'm using for all 7 of the core classes. You cannot start your electives until you finish your core classes. And you have to do 100 for each section. You cannot do, you can't use 2, you can't use the same project for two of them and only do the 100 and count that for both. You'd have to do either 200 or 400, depending on how you were trying to get your points. So I got, again, very lucky, and I managed to justify 9 of my classes using one project, and that is the Once Upon a Time sampler from Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. So I'm going to walk through all the classes that I picked out, the justification for each. So of the 7 cores, the astronomy one, I'm using the June block that has the moon and has some stars in it, because astronomy is based off the moon and the stars, etc. Now the charms class, I was a little iffy on that, but I've got 2 options that I think are both valid. It's going to be the July block was Thumbelina, and she's literally the size of a thumb. There's a charm that shrinks objects and people, so I think that's a valid justification. I believe Thumbelina was shrunken magically using a charm. Alternatively, if that is a little bit of too much of a stretch, maybe she's just a tiny person naturally, I'm going back to the Princess and the Pea block, because in the story there were many, many mattresses. I don't know if there ever was an exact number mentioned, but there is a cushioning charm that like softens things. That like it makes it very soft, I guess. It's but there's no way that that girl could have shown up, slept on like 30 mattresses, and gone black and blue with a single pea under all of them if there wasn't some kind of charm on her. So those are my 2 justifications. Hopefully one of them is valid. There is a question each week after the homework's announced. There is a question section that you can go and you can ask, and I read about 310 comments, and I think I have a pretty good idea of what the admins are looking for, so hopefully it counts. So either way, I'll still have 200 stitches put in. The 3rd class is defensive against the dark arts, and one of the spells learned is a Patronus, which is very difficult, and there's a whole list. I don't have one because I'm not that invested in commingling my fantasy and my, whatever, not important. But a wolf is one of the recognized Patronuses. Professor Lupin has one. I believe Tonks, when she fell in love, her Patronus changed to a wolf. So I actually have 2 wolves in this sampler. I have both the 3 little pigs that I showed you, and I have the Red Riding Hood. So let's see. The 4th class is Herbology, and I'm using Jack and the Beanstalk because it's a beanstalk. It's a magical bean. There's no way that's not happening. History of Magic is the 5th class. Now, in the comments that I went through, words and letters were allowed to be counted towards the History of Magic, and I have, obviously, this was a year-long stitch-along that they released in 2014. So I have all the months, and I also have the actual title in the sample, so I'm counting that. Number 6 was potions. This is also going to be a little bit I'm going to question it a little bit. I think my rationale is good. The admins who ultimately assign the points for your homework, they might not, and that's okay, but I think it's a solid one. Snow White, January, she ate a poison apple, and the apple was poisoned with a potion for a sleep-like death that can only be broken by true love's kiss. And if that doesn't count towards potion making, I don't know what will. Actually, I do. They did have some answers, like you could do a vial, but anyway, I'm trying to do all the work on one sampler. So the 7th class is Transfiguration. Now I have, again, 2 options. I'm picking my first one, and then I have a backup one just in case my reasoning for the first one is insufficient. So, Princess and the Frog. The frog has been transfigured from a human prince. So, I mean, it's a thing. And if that is insufficient, while I was going through the list of all the spells in Harry Potter to figure out what I could use for the charm section, they mentioned how Professor McGonagall, in her first class, transfigured a table to a pig and back again. So I do have the 3 little pigs. So I think that will be a secondary justification if my first one is insufficient. Hopefully, obviously, I don't need to do that, but I want to be on the safe side. So that's why I like doing the stitch-along samplers, because for these kind of projects, not projects, whatever, however you want to phrase it, because you have multiple opportunities. Like any sampler in general, you're going to have the ability typically to choose multiple sections of the sampler to fit multiple areas. I swear I speak better than this in real life. I don't. It's the camera, it's making me shy. So that hits my core classes. At the very least, I'll have 700 put in. And again, I have to take a starting photo, stop after either 100 or 200, and then move on to the next section. I can't do 200, or I can't do 100 and count it for 2 classes. Excuse me. So now the electives, I picked 3 of them. I picked arithmancy, which is basically numerology. And this does have the year. Now, obviously, this is it was a 2014 stitch along. So I'm going to change that out to 2019 because hopefully I'll have this done by the end of the year in general. But that's my count for it. My study of ancient runes is the second elective that I chose. And that is, the admins allowed words for that. Words and symbols, I believe. And this obviously, again, it has the month on it, and it has the title of the sampler, so it counts. I'm skipping over Care of Magical Creatures because I didn't really see any truly magical, like a dragon or a unicorn. Like talking animals, I don't really, I think, apply in the Harry Potter world as like a magical creature. And then 4, this is my last one. The 5th option was Muggle Studies, and I wasn't even going to try. I'm not trying to add more stitching projects, and I only have like three going on right now, and the third one does not count. It didn't work for any of these. So the third elective that I chose was divination, and I'm doing a coffee and tea sampler by Cooler Design Studios. And the reason that I'm using this one for my divination is because tea leaves, specifically, are used to tell your fortune. And this sampler does have a teapot that is clearly brewing tea. It does have a little a teacup. I was going to say mug, and it has a little teacup. It does have a container that has tea in it. So, excuse me, it does have some floral things that I think you could claim to be tea. So I'm going to put 200 hopefully on this as well for my divination. But of course I can't count this unless I get my 700 minimum for my 7 classes. So that was my justification for my O.W.L.s taking this week. Hopefully those who are lurking and found me through the Facebook group found this helpful. If you like it, click like, subscribe, etc. I will be putting detailed information and links in the description box if you have questions about either the pattern, the fabric, the Facebook group, anything like that. And then, like I said, if you're interested, you want to hear more, subscribe, helpful comments, etc. Thank you. I hope you guys have a good rest of the day, and I hope you guys have fun stitching.